Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Heads Together. I'm Bonnie Low-Kramen, your host, and I'm here with Jennifer Wilner, my assistant. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Bonnie. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, March 9th, 2022. I want to welcome all of our viewers and from all over the world. Welcome to Heads Together. Right before we went on the air, it's just I always check the news frequently through the day. And today I was planning on starting the show with a moment of silence for the Ukraine, but it's particularly important right at this moment because I don't know how long ago it happened, whether it was in hours or minutes. The Russians bombed drama theater. And, I just read the words drama theater and it hit me because all of you know how, theater oriented I am. And there were hundreds of people sheltering in there. So they're not sure how many people died or are hurt. So could we just for a moment send positive energy over there? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And may this thing be over soon. Whew.
Very soon.
Yeah. Hello. So, hello, Mary Alanese and Laura. We're so happy to have you here on this very special show today. I've been waiting every day. I think, we're one day closer to having Lindsay Robinson be on our show. She's just quite the powerhouse, and I'm going to tell you a bit about her before we bring her on. But before we even do that, I want to just highlight still once again how yesterday, March, and I gave the wrong date, didn't I?
Today's the 16th. It's all good.
Jen, you didn't correct me. Today is Wednesday.
No, I wouldn't.
And yesterday, Tuesday, March 15th, was Equal Pay Day. And Equal Pay Day is one of those days that always hits me also. And Lindsay, if you can hear this from backstage, and you're welcome to comment on this as well. But the reality is that it takes women all the way till March 15th of 2022 to make what men did in all of 2021. And that's for Caucasian women. For women of color, it is even longer. And that is not okay under any circumstances. That we can do this much better, ladies and gentlemen. So on this show, we talk often about the need for pay transparency and pay equity in the profession of assisting and all professions, frankly, to close that wage gap between women and men. And we are determined to help to make that happen. So in that spirit, I am wearing green, as in green for money and green for St. Patrick's Day, which is tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I mean, it's hard to keep up with everything.
It is.
I see people pouring into the show today, and I thank you so much for being here. I know you're here to learn from Lindsay Robinson. So I'm going, without any further ado, I've got the date right. Do I have anything else that I need to correct, Jen?
You're good.
I'm like, something's wrong with what I just said. Okay. All right. So great to have you all here. Heidi and Brooke and Tatanea. Hey.
Laura.
And Laura. Okay. Laura, well, you'll see the replay since you have to leave early. But okay. Lindsay Robinson. She's a Jersey girl, like we are, like you and I are, Jen. And she went to Montclair State University, which is like 4 miles from where I grew up in New Jersey. So we absolutely bonded over that. And we reconnected on LinkedIn. Lindsay, in her bio, which it's just so interesting, she's always been in service to others. She learned very early in her career that being proactive, resourceful, and personable would get her quite far fast. And Just wait. If you've never met her or heard from her, you're going to see how very personable she is. All right. Starting in public relations at the NBA, the National Basketball Association, was a dream come true. As a fan and a college athlete, Lindsay was, combining her passion and career goals was a gift. She spent 11 years at the NBA under the tutelage of amazing leaders, learning the business of player development. How interesting that must have been. Oh my gosh. And she's going to tell us about that. When it was time for a change of pace, Lindsay started a new position at the growing New York City-based experiential marketing agency. And get this, it was called Team Epiphany. She created a position for herself as vice president and of business operations. And she also supported the husband and wife co-owners as their personal and executive assistant. I mean, just crafting the job herself to be vice president. That's a story in and of itself. And then 20 years later, I mean, Lindsay has been in this business a long time. Lindsay was fortunate to find her way back to the tech industry. And she is now an EA to the online sales organization at LinkedIn. She is employed by LinkedIn, and her role is in support of the vice president as well as senior director in this business vertical. And I didn't know that LinkedIn has 500 employees globally. That's very interesting. And one of her joys is to be able to share with people and understand the benefits of the LinkedIn platform. So without further ado, let us all welcome Lindsay Robinson.
I'm blushing over here.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I know you are one busy lady.
Never too busy for you or our EA community.
Oh, well, and we know you mean that.
I do.
We know you mean that.
I just have one correction in the bio.
Go
My
ahead.
org has 500. LinkedIn is 15,000 globally.
I was thinking that's an amazing amount of work for just 500 people.
Yeah, just my org alone is 500.
So 15,000 globally.
30 offices.
Wow.
30 offices. Incredible.
Yeah.
And I know Jen is waiting with bated breath for all of this information.
I am. I'm such a LinkedIn geek.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
So, Lindsay, we begin by throwing at you some rapid fire questions, which are super fun.
I love it.
And I may throw you a couple curveballs here.
Works for me.
So, who would you choose, Bruno Mars or Marvin Gaye?
Bruno Mars. Best concert I've ever been to.
Seriously.
Stood up the entire time right here in Madison Square Garden.
Amazing. Favorite TV show as a child?
I was a big cartoon buff. Jetsons, Smurfs, Snorks. Like, I loved all those. And my mother was a Saturday morning, you must clean this house. And so we watched cartoons and cleaned. She also owned a cleaning business. So we were pretty proficient in cleaning. Still am.
So, it's one of those things that never leaves you, does it?
My sister, not so much, but me, yes.
That might be a choice.
Yeah. She also has 3 kids, so very different. She got a lot to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
You know, I ask this question and I get asked this question so much. If I'm honest, I do not remember.
Really?
I don't remember. And I don't think I've ever said that in my life, but if I'm honest, I can't recall what I wanted to do as a kid.
Yeah.
Just because I've always been so busy. You know, I was always busy. So
I guess it must mean you were into a lot of things.
I was.
But were you into sports? I mean,
Oh,
clearly.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
As a little kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Started sports quite early.
What sport did you play?
Basketball.
You were a basketball player.
And we had like intramurals. So also like kickball, volleyball, dodgeball. My mom was a single parent. So a lot of extra like latchkey activities.
Yeah.
The YMCA after school. We had a big neighborhood. I grew up in Long Branch, New Jersey. And we had just a big neighborhood, big front yard.
Mm-hmm.
That's a story for another time, that a car crashed into our bushes and came into the front yard. So front yard was no longer an option. So I had to go to the backyard, which was not so fun. But yeah, it was just a big neighborhood. You just don't see that
Aw.
anymore.
You have
know?
happy memories.
Oh, yeah,
Happy
for
memories
sure.
of there. Yeah. What position did you play?
So I'm 5'10", so I played small forward and power forward.
Gotcha.
I tried to play center, but
I was a huge Knicks fan.
okay.
Who's your favorite team?
You know what? So obviously it was the New Jersey Nets for many, many years. And then when I started at the NBA, you're not supposed to have a team.
They tell you that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because you're supposed to be neutral.
Oh,
right.
okay.
And so, also you start to learn very quickly that it's a business and teams break up. And so I became, working for the NBA, very attached to players. And so I hope we get to my favorite player,
okay, that's happening right now.
Oh, okay.
NBA player.
So I have a few, but for a long time now, and Jen, will you throw up the picture of Chris and Jada? Chris Paul is an absolute favorite. He and his entire family, mom, dad, brother, wife, who they've been together since college, went to their wedding. I just spent time with them here in New York at dinner. Jada and I are constantly going back and forth. Just an awesome family. And it was really great for me to see, especially as a young person. I started at the NBA when I was 22, I think 23. Jada was with him the entire time. He was very focused. The family was all there in support of, not taking from, and just really wanted to see him thrive and succeed. His brother ended up becoming his manager. He then got married. They had a set of twins. I'm also close with that side of the family. They're just exemplary people and human beings. And for me,
he's not still playing.
Yeah, he is. He's in Phoenix.
He's Phoenix. Oh, got it. Okay. So you're still really close and friends and all that. Yeah. We must be having a little bit of technical difficulty.
That's all right.
So when you're talking about Jada, you're not talking about Will Smith's Jada.
No, Jada Paul, his wife.
Okay. Yes. Let's just make it clear, since we're not seeing a photograph right now. What's your favorite dessert?
Creme brulee.
Oh, we've had that answer a bunch of times.
So good.
Favorite app besides LinkedIn on your phone?
Peloton.
Which one?
Peloton.
Oh, yes. You're a fitness.
Yes. Fanatic. Yes.
What's your favorite movie?
So there's a movie that took place in New York many, many years ago. I probably should not have been watching it at the time I was watching it, but it's called Juice. It's got Tupac. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name. Phelps. I can't remember, but it basically was showed kind of a group of guys and the trials and tribulations that they were going through. But the soundtrack was awesome. The guys may or may not have been attractive, and it was just one of those things where they just seem so cool that we wanted to be it. It comes on today, and my mother's like, "Oh goodness, not this again."
How many times have you seen it?
I mean, I couldn't even count.
Wow,
couldn't even count.
So, just a couple more questions. What's the last thing you binge watched?
Oh, Big Sky, which is it's basically, I'm into crime dramas, so it's based in Montana. It's these two female detectives or PIs. And it's just about all the kind of shenanigans that go on in a small town.
So one of our viewers, Lindsay, is asking you if the other actor was Omar.
Yes, Omar.
We are helped constantly by our network here.
And one of the singers from In Vogue was his girlfriend. It's so good. So
okay, so maybe you'll get the answer to that one too.
Love it.
So have you ever binge watched any series now twice or more? Or not really?
Schitt's Creek. You just have to keep.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Yes. For me, it's Schitt's Creek and Ted Lasso.
Oh, of course. If you're as a sports fanatic, yes.
So Marion's asking, Lindsay, your background is the Foxtrot Steps. Does that have special meaning?
I'm in the New York office. The room is called Charleston. And so there you go.
How cute is that? Are they all, are the names of the rooms all after cities or dances?
This floor is all over the place.
Oh, okay.
Because we have
now,
Gerald, we have Stein, we have Zoot Suit. So these 3 rooms, I forget what the other one right here is, but this is like a dancing. I forget what the one behind.
It's a theme thing.
Yeah, I haven't been in. All of them have a theme, but they sometimes go like.
Did you help in naming? Did you help name these things?
No,
No.
This office was here quite a few years before I got it.
See, I'm trying to give you credit for everything that's happening at LinkedIn.
I'll take all of it.
Okay. And last question before we jump into the meat of this day is tell us one thing that's not on your LinkedIn profile that might surprise people.
Have you been in our meetings? Do you know what's going on in here? That's like our classic starter for new people. So the thing that's not on my LinkedIn profile and goes along with, something a lot of people know about me is, so I turned 40 in 2017, and I wanted to get 40 medals. So I was a runner. I had to put that on pause for a little bit, but wanted to get 40 medals for by my 40th birthday. So I started, obviously, January. I know, right? Like, we don't have enough to do in our lives, and I'm just going to build this on. But goal-oriented, love a challenge.
Yeah.
Super into fitness. My friends were doing ultras and all of these ridiculous things. I knew that I didn't want to do that. Running was fun for me. I didn't want to take the fun out of it. So I got my little spreadsheet together, started talking to some friends in different places, and I set a goal of achieving 40 medals for my 40th birthday. That didn't mean at the time 40 races, because some of the series that I participated in, you run a 5K, a 10K, and a half in a weekend, you get a 4th medal. So I had to do some math. Overshot, which I'm sure is not shocking. I ended up at 56, and I ran a lot, and I spent a lot of money.
Have you ever taken the DISC assessment?
No.
Oh, okay. That's a personality test that we do at EQA. I just want everyone on the call to notice how Lindsay, in typical assistant fashion, made sure we knew that 40 medals didn't mean necessarily 40 races, that you owned what it really was going to be, that, sometimes I overshot the 4th medal.
Right.
I mean, it
was the rock and roll series. So the rock and roll series, and there's another series in Baltimore, that has to do with some smokestacks. I can't remember, but you run 3 races. So a 5K on Friday, 10K on Saturday, half on Sunday, and then you get a 4th medal.
Gosh.
Yeah. It's a lot of running.
So, Lindsay, you have had a really interesting career. I knew that by reading your LinkedIn profile, but then when we spoke a few weeks back, I mean, it's just like one layer after another with you, which is so interesting. And you've been doing this over 20 years. So clearly you've got a lot of depth and experience here. Can you talk us through some of the turning point moments that led you to LinkedIn? Tell us more about this story of yours. And if you want some pictures, maybe Jen will give it another shot.
Yeah. So I think it actually levels up, at least my transition from the NBA to another job is in line with what you were discussing. And thank you for calling out the Equal Pay Day. I was young, had started that career very early. It's a very prestigious, organization. And I wasn't being paid nor utilized in the way I thought that I could. It was a lot of, well, that's not your job. That's not your job. And while I understood generally what they were saying, it became my job when it was convenient for everyone else. And that's where I started having a problem. What I was trying to do was seek opportunity. And, as executive assistants or PAs or, the gamut of all that we do, we're planning a lot of things, but we don't actually get to execute, right? And so I had been there maybe 8-9 years at that point. And I said, I'm planning all of this, and I'm getting calls that things are going wrong. Why can't I be there? Why can't I try to get ahead of some things, be proactive? That's one of my mantras. And I just wasn't allowed. And then in terms of, I'm there 8-9 years, maybe 10 years, I want to, look to increase my savings, more contributions to my 401k. I have now a niece, who I want to help support and make sure that her college is together, because my sister is also a single parent. We didn't have aunts and uncles. And so I wanted to make sure that I stepped up for my family. And those opportunities were being not only not provided, but adamantly no. And in my time, I felt like it was convenient when, oh, can you go do this? I'm like, oh, I thought that wasn't part of my job. Obviously I did not say that, but this is what's going on in my head. In my reviews, I brought it up. I was asking for local opportunities. We have Knicks, Nets, Sixers, all within driving distance that people would drive to teams, because essentially what my department did at the NBA was host and support our teams, at the team level. And those 3 teams are considered local. And so they didn't have to fly there. They didn't need to stay the night. It was an out and back, especially Knicks and Nets at minimum, right? So why can't I just shadow? Essentially, I was looking for shadowing opportunities. Again, getting out from behind the desk. I started that pretty early. And I just was told no, time and time again, but with no evidence of why. It was kind of just like, we don't want you to do that. And so I just started looking for other opportunities. At that point I had been there. I kept asking and kept asking. And listen, I got a lot of opportunity there, but I saw more. I saw more for myself. I saw more for my coworkers. I saw more of putting myself out there and doing more, not asking for more pay, just garnering experience.
Right.
And it wasn't met with encouragement. It was met with, I kept hitting a ceiling. And so
what's your theory about why that was really?
It's unfortunately, I think in entertainment in general, it's a culture of fear of somebody superseding you. Because I had skill sets that other people didn't have. And, what was starting to happen was I was out meeting players and engaging with players. And when they couldn't reach my boss, they'd contact me. Now, listen, we're on an office phone. They're not calling my cell phone. We didn't have cell phones back then. I'm old. Like they were calling the office phone. And I'm writing reports every week and people know who's calling, what are they calling for, what the execution was, conferring with my boss. Because again, I don't have all of the answers and I'm still her assistant. And so there's still a chain of respect that needs to be, honored there. But what happened, that actually worked against me, because what was happening was, she was telling me, or not she, but the department was telling me, that's not your job. And so when those calls come in, they need to be fielded. But they were calling me because they could reach me. And one of my boss's favorite saying was, oh, Lindsay's my right hand. Like, call her for anything. And then when I got called, I was like, I was in trouble. So, sadly, I just think the structure needed an overhaul. And I think in the culture of entertainment, people want to be close to celebrity. Like it puffs up their chest a bit, right? For me, sure, it was cool, if you will, but this wasn't I wasn't a lifer. I wanted the experience. I was there for the right reasons. Also, I think to some extent, being a woman worked against me. And frankly, being a woman, a young woman, and a woman that looked like many of the players. And so they engaged with me a little more, being a Black woman, dealing with many Black players.
Yeah.
They looked at me as like a sister, an auntie.
Sure.
And I think, people frowned upon that, but, there was nothing but professionalism and above the board, and we were always in suits. And so there shouldn't have been any concern. But sadly, I only have so much control over that.
Yeah, that's such an interesting story, Lindsay, and so many lessons to learn from that. And one of our viewers today is saying, she's on LinkedIn and she says, wow, I work for an NBA team now. Glad that has changed.
Yeah. And I think it even started to change. So the NBA as a whole is one entity. And then the team structure is another entity. And although we work together, they are completely separate orgs. But I do think even almost as soon as I left, management changed, process and protocols changed, right? So it was just people wanted to do things the same way, the way that we always have. As an assistant, we're like, how can we mess this up and do it better? And that just is my whole life. And so if you don't have someone on the same under the same understanding as you and wants to put the work in to see if there's anything that can be revised, there was back then it was a lot of don't reinvent the wheel. It's all the same thing. And I'm thinking, no, it's not. Like, there's so much more we could be doing.
Yeah. And I want to, before we go off of the NBA, I'm sure we'll go back to it, but it seems to me that the being told no repeatedly, time after time, could, to some people, be so demoralizing and kind of soul shattering kind of experiences. I hear that all the time. You seem to not have succumbed to that. Somehow, was it tough? Was it?
Oh, yeah. It was almost more, and again, as an EA or anybody in this admin profession, we put our heart and soul in everything that we do. It is a job for us, but especially because we're supporting typically either a department or a person or several people, it becomes in the most innocent way intimate. And so when someone sees you working so hard, or you think you're working so hard, to excel, especially as a young person, right? Nothing's ever enough. And so you want to get there. At least I'd say back then we were willing to work for it. I do think this generation tends to be a little quick with it, and maybe wants to skip steps, but there's process and protocol in place for a reason. And while I applaud what everyone's doing today and the way they're able to use social media, that wasn't an option then. And so you had to show up every day, and I'm packing boxes and doing shipping labels and everything that were the minutia of our job, which as an EA, if you're not buried in minutia, you're not doing it right. But I think that I knew I had control.
Interesting.
I knew that I had control, and I knew my boss had to say, and these are things I don't think about until someone asks me, but my boss always had to say, don't steal her. Don't try to steal her. And I'm like, okay, are they asking? Because, maybe they can steal me. And that's essentially what ended up happening is, on a Sunday afternoon, Coltrane and Lisa, who were my next bosses, who also happened to be friends, reached out and they said, we want you. How do we get you here? I had no idea what the answer to that question was. I'm like, 26, 27, whatever, or whatever the case. No, sorry. I guess I was a little over 30, but still had been there so long. And even though I wanted to make a move, it's very scary. I live in New York, it's just a scare. Anytime you move, it's scary. And I was scared to disappoint my current.
So wait, where were they asking you to move?
They wanted me at their company. They wanted me to leave the NBA and come work for them.
But in New York?
Yeah, still in New York. But
okay.
But it was, there's a smaller company. I'm leaving a huge institution. I know that my job is going to be much more intense. And I had to kind of, again, make my own job. This was an agency of, I think there was 15 people when I got there. We ballooned to 80 over the 9 years that I was there, or 10 years that I was there. But, fear is scary, or change is scary. No matter what, people might embrace it, but there's always that initial heartbeat that makes you, catches your breath for a second. But
what made you say yes?
My roommate and best friend. She was like, you deserve more and better.
So she was saying the things that you needed to hear. It's one thing for us to know them inside us, but it's a whole other thing for an outside person looking at us to say those things. Yes.
And I loved my job. I think that was, that was part of it. I loved basketball. I loved my job. I actually love and still speak to all of my bosses from there, and many people who are still, the NBA's gone through some changes. It's been 12 years since I left, but or maybe even longer than that now. But I speak to those people, and again, because of the intimacy of our jobs, you get close to people.
Sure.
And then there was fear. There was fear of disappointment. There was fear of what am I walking into? Imposter syndrome. Can I do these things?
Yeah.
All of those things. I was still somewhat young, and I had only ever known that place.
Right. Of course. It's so interesting. So when it came time to make the leap from Team Epiphany to LinkedIn, was the fear as much, or was it less?
Way worse. Worse. So,
oh my gosh.
One, let me just.
I wasn't predicting that.
Yes. So one, let me encourage anyone who is looking to make a change, pivot, into the career, out of the career, away from something that you love for something you love more. Do not let anyone tell you, including yourself, that you cannot do it. Put a lot of thought into it, but fear almost held me back. And then fear almost held me back for coming here too. So that's the story we'll get to. Right.
Wait, here?
LinkedIn here. Yes. I almost did not.
I thought you meant heads together.
Oh, no. I'm talking about this one.
I'm like,
I just think that so many of us get so tied to the people we work for, the organizations. Put yourself first, and put yourself first in spite of yourself. Because I would have stopped myself if not for Amy telling me, recapping and recounting the countless times I was upset, disappointed, discouraged. I probably wouldn't have done it. And then also I took a pay cut to go to leaving the NBA to my other job, but I saw the potential.
Yeah.
And that was rectified almost immediately.
And you were correct, right? The potential met your expectation.
Yeah.
So then why was going to LinkedIn so scary?
So I was the only one to ever do the job at Team Epiphany. I actually had an assistant at the time. She quit a week before I got this offer. My Lisa, who was the managing partner, was out on maternity leave. We were in the process of being acquired. And so
you were thinking of everybody else except you.
Isn't that what we do?
Yes, it is.
Every day?
Yes, it is.
And so I tried to talk LinkedIn out of hiring me. I threw everything at the wall and they kept saying yes. And I was like, crap. And it was a super tight turnaround. So, and half the office was away. So half the office was away for a coworker's wedding. And so I wasn't even going to be able to tell them in person because I needed to give a certain amount of notice, et cetera. But I was home because I was running the New York City Marathon, so I couldn't go. Or training for the New York City Marathon, excuse me. Long story short, I told them it did not go well. They did not speak to me for a little while. It was very heartbreaking. I'm going to get emotional because these were two of my best friends as well.
They took it personally.
Took it very personally.
And I think, how long were you there?
9.5 years. Gave everything I had. And I blame them today because they were scared. Nobody knew how to do my job, even though I had a Bible. I also was planning on taking a sabbatical. So it sort of worked out in that I had a lot of things prepped because I wanted to take some time off because I wasn't happy. And so they were going to allow me to do that, but the terms of that changed. And so that's what made me start looking. And then too, again, another friend, Katie Peak, I'll never forget it. We were on vacation around, what's the Memorial Day is in September?
No, that's Labor Day in September.
Labor Day. So we did a little trip on Labor Day. She is another person you should have on this show. Worked for Martha Stewart, Ariana Huffington, now works for Mina Harris, who's Kamala's sister.
Sign her up.
Yeah. Keep your network, people. If nothing else, this shows you
absolutely
network. But long story short, she pushed me to interview, and she had a headhunter. This opportunity actually came about because she worked for my former boss's wife at Martha. And so she went back so I used to work for a gentleman named Anthony Rizzicato here. His wife, Christine, and Katie worked together at Martha Stewart. And so
when they took it so personally, Lindsay, took it so personally, how long did that last, them being angry at you?
Too long.
Like weeks, months, years?
I'll say months. Months.
I want to just stop you for 1 second because I need to highlight this point that and Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, but you lived through what is the nightmare for assistants.
Yeah.
Is that the fear is that when I give notice that they're going to be mad at me, that they're going to take it personally, and they're going to, the irony makes me angry that leaders, when assistants give their resignation, they behave like it's a marriage. Yeah. They behave like it's a divorce.
Yeah.
And they take it personally. This is business, ladies and gentlemen. How about when leaders give their resignation?
Yes.
The company doesn't take it personally. They're doing this as a business, as a career move,
not public. This is what
not okay.
No, it's not.
That in the assistant world that it's taken personally. I've heard that so many times. And I feel like this audience needs to hear that, yes, it does happen, unfortunately. And the fear sometimes comes true.
Yeah.
But you did it anyway. And you learned from it, I'm sure. But don't let that stop you.
No.
From doing it.
And I still did the right thing. I still help them source a new person. I help them continue to put process and protocol in place. Yeah. I came after I started my new job here at LinkedIn to continue to train and make sure that everything was going on, because I was the only person to ever do that. Now, I will tell you, they 1000% righted the ship after that and are still very supportive of my career. I was going through a family situation. They were the first people to call. I think, what starts to happen is, again, and because that they did treat that as a business, it was two co-owners. They grew it from, ground up, not okay. But what I will tell you is they have since realized kind of the error of handling business in that manner. Right. And so I will never speak ill of them, but it was very hurtful at the time because I could think about was how I could continue to help them, even though I'm running the New York City Marathon, starting a new job, having to figure out how to go back and make sure that they're good too. Yeah. That's who I am as a person. So that's the other thing I will tell you. No matter how somebody treats you, don't ever let anybody take you out of your character. It doesn't matter. That's not how I was raised. That's not how I would show up. And so I continue to be my best self, again, in spite of.
That's very cool. Jen, could you put up Lee Harris's comment? Terrific, Lee. Thank you for being here. Jen may be having some issues from backstage. I think her internet is a little dicey. So I'm just going to read it. Lee said, actually, I can put it up. Changing jobs should be celebrated. Hey, Ma, look, I can do it. Yeah. Should be celebrated. Jen is applauding me from backstage.
I was going to say, look at that.
Look at me. Look, Ma, no hands. Taking a new position is something to be proud of for you and the people you support. Yes, amen. Yes, yes, yes.
And LinkedIn does that better than anybody else. I will put my
I would hope so.
They have an entire hashtag dedicated to it.
Yeah.
They want people talking about it. They even the minute you start, and we joke about this all the time, you're like, what do you want to do next? And we're like, I just got here.
What's the hashtag that they use?
Next play.
Next play or next place?
Next play. PLAY.
Interesting. So I know you're gonna talk more about LinkedIn because everybody is on the chat like so inspired. You have one of the catchiest and memorable LinkedIn headlines. And I know everybody's going to be going to your LinkedIn. It says, part of it says, you're executive officer of Shenanigans and you're a fit fanatic. We've heard some of that. Please talk to us about your headline and what we all should know about headlines on LinkedIn, because you are the queen of this.
So it's Chief Executive Officer of Shenanigans.
I love
Shenanigans. If you have a word, everybody has a word. Shenanigans is mine. But it also is an activity and a practice. So, Jen, I'm not sure if you're able to show any of the pictures, but the Halloween picture where it's myself and she's actually another assistant.
I see her backstage. Yeah. Her internet is making her crazy.
No problem. Okay. So essentially, it's just bringing the fun to work, bringing the levity, much of what we all do and what our jobs, much of what our job holds. It's a lot. Right? It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of details. It's minutia. I'm always trying to bring the fun. One, I enjoy it. And so if I enjoy it, why wouldn't I share that? So it's icebreakers. It's how we can all engage with silly questions. The picture I was going to show is LinkedIn celebrates a lot of things when we were in office. We're getting back to that, thank goodness. And I hope all of you are as well, remaining safe, of course. But it was a picture of myself dressed as Harley Quinn and another assistant dressed as the Joker. And so we dressed up and we won a $500 gift card here.
Wow.
So, it's one of those things where my boss gave me CEO of fun. And I was like, that's not enough. right? Like you've got to find the passion amidst all the things we have to do, right? So I always say, kill the job you're paid for and then figure out your passion around it. Like those should be parentheses. And that's what I do. Like I try to have a blast at all times. I'm always trying to smile. I occasionally go in the bathroom and say curse words. But generally, like I love my job. I love the people I work for, with, in support of. LinkedIn is hands down the best company that I've ever worked for. And they set a standard of, they're more perks, but amidst the perks shenanigans, I remember we were like cutting up pumpkins, over Halloween. It's like anything you can think that you would want to do on a holiday or in support of a holiday, they have it. We amplify it.
Okay. So you've got 15,000 people. Is LinkedIn hiring?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
And if anybody sees anything on the website, ping me separately. I got that little, I've got the referral link. Yes. And they pay us your referral.
So Jen put your LinkedIn profile in the chat and get ready. You're going to get inundated. I'm sure.
Just make sure that I know this is where we connect because the internet is still a scary place and I'd like us to use our manners.
Yeah. Well, Tara Kaufman is loving kill the job you're paid to do.
It's very easy to get caught up in all of the things that we think might possibly potentially influence. Figure out what it actually is that is important. And I think especially as EAs, we have to sync with our leaders. Bonnie, you talk about this all the time, really focusing in on what's important and then find the fun around that or the passion around it. That can be employee resource groups, that can be volunteering, that can be, mentorship, whatever it ends up being. But make sure that the job they're paying you for is done immaculately. If that's
great advice. Such great advice. So in our conversation a few weeks back, you spoke about the need for EAs to get out from behind the desk. You literally said they got to get out from behind the desk and to own their profession. And, so many for the last 2 years have been working alone at home. So tell us more about and I'm sure in part it was metaphoric, about the getting out from behind the desk. Tell us more about that and your point of view, because you've come a long way in your career. What does that mean for our viewers today who are listening to you and are being so inspired by your journey?
I appreciate that. And I'm inspired by your community, and I can't wait to connect with more people and continue to watch what you're doing, because you help us and support us and enable us to get up from behind the desk with forums like this, where we can learn and grow from each other to realize, even though it's been ingrained from us, especially, it has grown leaps and bounds from, 20 years ago when I started, but it starts back to what I was saying about, me planning the events and making sure all the logistics were correct, all from my office in New York. Now I'm doing it from my living room in Harlem, but, and that's only because of COVID, but we're very much conditioned to be puppet masters behind the scenes, right? So that's behind the desk. And everything we do is organize, but not execute. And so what I'm asking you to do is execute and be present for the execution. So attend your offsites, join every meeting, go to client meetings, greet clients, anything that you can do to put yourself in a position to be recognized and engaged, and you can engage with someone other than your boss. The immediate group that you work with, put you in a better position for whatever it is you do choose. And I think LinkedIn, you choose to do in the future. And maybe you don't know, right? Many of us don't know. We're very happy in what we're doing. Again, people keep talking about, whatever your next play is. And I'm like, hold on a second, I like this. And frankly, that also ladders up to not being a Jane of all trades, right? Not Jack, because I'm not Jack, I'm Jane. But I also don't want to do everything. And I don't want to be a chief of staff. Everybody's, oh, you're on the chief of staff track? I didn't ask for that. That's what you're putting on me. So be very careful about people giving you titles or giving you, assuming what your job is, right? So, but you have to own your narrative. So the getting up from behind the desk is seeing opportunities where you can add value and going after that, even if nobody else has done it before. The perfect example is, I would ask my boss. Well, first, when I was interviewed, I asked what they were looking for. I asked 2 pertinent questions in my interview. Are you a yeller? And if they're horrified, I know they're not a yeller. I'm too old to be yelled at, frankly, ever. We all are. No one should yell at me.
Oh, amen to that. Oh my God.
Susan, my mom, is the only one that yells, and she no longer yells at me either because we've had a conversation. That's not how we communicate, right? So that's one. And two, are you looking for a partner or an assistant? And sometimes they're like, huh? And then I explain the difference. I need someone who wants a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't hide my age. I'm 44 years old. I've been doing that. You can put the math together. I've been doing it 20 some years. I want to partner with someone to advance the business. Doesn't mean I want to be chief of staff, but there's a lot that I can do from the assistant chair, if you will, to advance the business, right? Half the time, I don't even know what they're talking about in my staff meetings, but I make it my business to find out and then ask a ton of questions. So just keep showing up. We're always going to have to do extra. That not do extra is just not a thing, but make sure it's extra that benefits you, right? Because we are in charge of our own career and we have to steer our own ship. I think many of us have amazing leadership teams, but at the end of the day, we're going to be the ones who have to speak up for ourselves. But if we're not in that position or nobody knows, you know, well, and LinkedIn is a great way to do that. So that's if we loop back to that, LinkedIn has allowed me to, frankly, start to become like yourself, a thought leader in the space. And really, it's just me talking about how I feel about us as a community and how I kind of move around and engage with, you know, not only my leadership, but other, you know, people at different companies in different industries. You know, we have here, I'm part of the sales org here, and we have what's called President's Club, you know, which is for, if anybody knows sales, it's the top, it's a sales retreat, you know, that all the top salespeople go. I was nominated this year as a hero, which myself and another EA, you know, I never thought anything like that could happen. People were like, you're going to work? And I was like, no, I was nominated, and it blew their minds. Right. But it's because I made, you know, they say you need a mentor, a sponsor. And there's one other thing. I've got a lot of sponsors because I'm out from behind the desk. I'm yakking, running around, acting crazy.
Not a shock.
5'10".
Lindsay, here's the thing. Early in your career at the NBA, you were told no. You can plan all these things, but you can't go. You want to race? Nope, can't do that either. So we have so many great assistants on this call today. Tell them what they do when they know they should be in that meeting on Wednesday and they're told no. Yeah. Or why do you need to be there? Or that no one's ever sat in that meeting before. What can they say to their executives? What should they do?
Yeah, I think that you need a plan. So a great example of this is we have a planning coordinator position now. So they support a few people, maybe more junior staff, not C-suite per se, but they're working across a few people. And we have offsites, and typically they're not in an office. And so she said, you know, I want to travel and I want to be there to support. And I said, frame that for me in a business sentence. And what are your objectives when you get there, right? And she had a laundry list, and I said, because she goes, well, I don't think I'm allowed to go. Why wouldn't you go? Show them all the things that you can accomplish and take off someone else's plate while you're there, and that's the legitimate reason for you, the business case for you to go.
Show them what's in it for them.
Yes, but
what's
also
in it for them?
How you're adding value, and everybody needs this business case, even though half the time they probably don't need it. But we should always be prepared to have documentation of how we can contribute. We're doing it anyway, right? It's just aggregating it one place. And again, back to LinkedIn, because this is what I do. LinkedIn is the place where you should be aggregating all of your professional attributes, right? You can't necessarily brag in the office, but you can certainly brag on LinkedIn. You can highlight all the activities. You can highlight your volunteer activities. If you speak another language, you know, Bonnie and I connected through LinkedIn. So you're crafting your network. You're then talking to your network. People are sending me jobs all the time. Not for me per se, but they know that people listen to me and look at my profile. There is a multitude of ways to be engaged and involved on LinkedIn. And that's why I say, especially for us, also resources, right? If I'm stuck on something, I put a question up there. I get people from all over, EAs from all over the world commenting on how they can help as a resource. I mean, somebody did it in here, like, what we do.
And talk more about that, about LinkedIn and the ways in which it can be leveraged, because it's such a powerful tool. I love that. And talked about that new feature a few weeks ago on this show about the 30-second
Cover story.
video, the cover story. You have a terrific one. Could you talk more about that, about the things we can do on LinkedIn to really leverage how powerful a tool this is?
Yeah. Well, again, I think the highlight and shine is great. So you're highlighting who you are, what you're bringing to the table, what you may need at any given point. And the shine is really the way that you are unique and how you do it, right? So we're all bringing, especially as executive assistants, you can come to this job many different ways, right? So, what I did previous to here or previous to even my first job, this is what I knew I wanted to do. I think I was like, planning stuff in college. So I always knew. But I think you have to be a little bit vulnerable in putting it out there because it still is the internet. And I know a lot of people talk about wanting to necessarily share their information, but this is the place to do it. One, LinkedIn works really hard on their trust and safety protocols. And so when things are awry, if you will, there are measures in place to fix that. So one, don't be afraid of our platform. Two, I think we have at last count 810,000 million members globally, and it's free, except for LinkedIn Learning, the premium, which is insights. Not most people won't need those things. Bonnie, you probably will because of you're actually running a business on LinkedIn. Yeah. But if you are just an individual brand or an individual contributor, the platform is free. So it's a great way to be visible, to recap much of the work that you're doing in office, share resources with other assistants. I've gotten a multitude of speaking engagements. I can't believe people still want to hear me talk. I'm just all over the place half the time because I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm not shocked about that. Just so you know, Evelyn from Uganda just dialed in here.
Oh, amazing. And this is what I'm saying. Like, how else are you able to communicate with such a vast and global population from literally wherever you are? Typically I say from, my apartment in Harlem. The other thing is sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And so when you're seeing other people doing it, even if it's not specifically just like you, it gives you advancement. The representation matters. It's not a joke. I think it's very serious, and it doesn't necessarily focus on just color. It's this EA went to a club at her company. How come we're not allowed to do this? Or people wanted to know my contact for Habitat for Humanity last week because we built those little playhouses, and then that enhances my relationship with my Habitat community. Right. So there's so many ways to show you as a human first, because at the end of the day, without a human, we don't come to work. So you're able to show, again, the professional side with a bookend or bookends of humanity.
So Lindsay, can you talk about the benefits and the value of commenting on your colleagues' posts, sharing your colleagues' posts, posting on your own?
Yeah. So it's all beneficial. So I think, people want to be celebrated. People want to be encouraged. People want to be reinforced. We want that in the office. It's like an attaboy or a pat on the back, whatever we used to say.
A virtual one.
We want that, but also we should give that, right? Especially when you are passionate about what someone else is doing. Or sometimes it's just to let people know, I see you. Right? Like I see what you're doing and good job. Really a thumbs up. But also the reposting your colleagues, or even sometimes there's people that I don't know, sharing thoughts, memes, pictures. Really, that's for, we're in the snackable content, community. So, people need to see something to engage with it. LinkedIn is still professional, but it's still social media. And so you've got to do something to kind of catch the eye, catch the gaze, same as what's happening behind me. If I could have had, I probably nobody would be that interested if I just had a white screen, right? Like, zhuzh it up, as my grandma would say. Also says,
grandma would say.
Yeah, as my grandma, she says, zhuzh and rouge, which is like blush. I'm like, Graham, what are you talking about? He's not used to that. I talked to her yesterday. But anyway, back to, again, I can go all over the place.
All right. So we are coming into the last few minutes of our time together. Didn't it fly? I told you it was going to fly.
I talk a lot.
Well, no, it's so interesting, Lindsay. So tell us, as you look ahead, you've come a long way. So we have the rear view mirror. As we look ahead, we've come through this incredible 2 years. As you look ahead at LinkedIn and just as the profession as a whole, what are you worried about and what are you excited about?
I'm worried that people have gotten very comfortable being alone and home and in their own space. Because even as I was in the office today, I'm like, whoo, she loud, and I like had to readjust my space to get away from the person taking a business call in our common area to a room that takes me away from the reason I came to the office, which is to be amongst people. But I could not focus even with my headphones on because she is of a louder nature. So I'm concerned that those sorts of things that were just the norm before, and we just like kind of ignored whatever she was doing over there, those things are going to be the in real life is not going to be valued as it once was. I think initially it will, and then people are going to be like, yeah, but I was so much more productive at home. But we all know at home there's no stop, there's all start, and we need people. Like we need people.
Yeah, I think the jury's out on that one, but I
like the flexibility, but I know most from what we're hearing, and LinkedIn literally is like, do whatever you want to do, which is great. But on some level, we're going to suffer. I don't know how, but we're going to suffer as this continues. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, as human beings, newsflash, humans need each other. And this is great, this virtual thing, but like I didn't know you were 5'10". Like I knew you played basketball, or actually I knew you played sport. Anyway, what are you excited about?
I'm excited about figuring out other ways to work and it continuing to be flexible. I may not have been able to be, not even just me, but all of your amazing community has been able to gather virtually from Uganda and other places in the world that there's very little chance that we would have otherwise been able to connect with. And so I'm excited about figuring out ways to just make that connection more firm, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Harriet is saying this has been an impacting session. And thank you, Harriet, for being here and for all of you being here. So grateful that we can bring this global community together. Before we say goodbye to Lindsay, you should know Jen put her LinkedIn profile in the chat. I suspect every single person is going to be connecting with you, Lindsay.
It's going to be me later.
Especially the one who works for the NBA now.
Yes, I would absolutely love to connect. And
it's such a small world. I just want this community to know we have seats still open for the May Be the Ultimate Assistant workshop in New York City on May 18, 19, and 20. We would love to have you. And I want to tease that in maybe next week or the week after, I'm going to be announcing a pretty major change to the way we are doing this gathering each week. And I'm super excited about it. And my hope is that you've come along with me on this ride so far, and that you will continue on the road with me as we come out of this pandemic and the world changes again, and so must we. So, Lindsay Robinson, do you have any last thoughts for our audience before we have to say goodbye to you today?
I'm just super grateful to be a part of it. One and connect with you, and even the way that you started the meeting, your compassion is so evident in everything that you do. And so thank you for just being yourself and then continuing to uplift everyone around you and providing a platform for myself and others who you feel are worthy of talking to both you and your community. I think again, we need people. And we especially need people who understand what we're going through on a daily basis. Yeah. You absolutely do that and provide value for all the people that are joining in. So thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm so happy that we are connected, and Jersey girls.
I know.
I mean, seriously, it's so cool that we've got so much in common. Thank you all. Jennifer, thank you from backstage. Sorry you were having some tech difficulties today, but you know, every single person on this call totally gets that, right, Lindsay?
Every day.
We just go with the flow.
I had it before we joined. I had a panic attack.
That's it. Yeah. And you hadn't been on StreamYard before. And, you know, we're still having learning curves, it seems, on a daily basis. That's why we need to come together. Olympia Dukakis used to say to me, Bonnie, you do not have to be an expert in everything, but you sure as heck need to know who the experts are to get the answers we need fast.
You need to be a resource. Be a resource.
Be a resource. So thank you all for being here. Please join us next Wednesday. I'll get the date right, March 23rd, and for another episode of Heads Together. And once again, thank you, Lindsay Robinson, for being with us.
Thank you.